We find that there are many neighbors who have been hurt in the past by churches, or just have no experience with churches, or were in a church as children that they just can't imagine going back to. So they're not interested in walking in the doors of a church. And so we're providing an avenue for church folks
Yes.
to come out of the walls.
Welcome everybody to episode number 9 of Community Connections by Love Inc. Today we're talking to Katy Bennett, who is the head of the LYN program at Love Inc. So thank you for talking with me.
Well, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So tell me a little bit about the LYN program.
So LYN stands for the Loving Your Neighbor program, and it's the hand up component of our ministry. We meet practical needs when people first come to us. They come to us for various reasons, and then this is what we do to help them come up out of their need. So the classes involve things like New Image, where they learn who God says they are, parenting classes, financial classes, health and wellness, and Alpha at this point. So that's our discipleship class. We also have classes for children. While the parents are in their classes, the children are also learning. It's kind of like Sunday school. They're not just being babysat, they're being loved on, and they have curriculum, so they're learning right along with their parents.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very nice. So it's basically when somebody hears LYN, they hear it's classes, and then there's childcare provided, and it's really, the way I've heard it described, the hand up portion of the ministry. So I guess the handout, the best use of the word handout portion of the ministry would be the donation center, giving people practical needs, and then we don't just leave people with the handout and just like whatever, give you stuff and leave, but we have the hand up, which is LYN.
And the LYN is an option. It's not required to receive help. We do also outside of the LYN program, we can help with referrals and that sort of thing. But this is for people who want to go further.
Yeah.
It's all about relationships with others, other people in the classes and the volunteers, and especially with God. We really foster that.
Sure.
We don't call our students clients or students. We call them neighbors to keep it on that even playing field, because we all have needs. We all have areas in our lives that we can improve.
Right, and that's from that parable, which is, when they're talking about who is my neighbor, and it's,
Correct.
everyone, everyone around you.
In the LYN program, we look at people holistically. We want to meet them in all the areas of need, and we've determined that to be emotional, physical, spiritual, and relational. Okay, and we look at that as the 4 wheels of a wagon. If a wagon is headed west, you can't move if your wheels aren't good, and even just one wheel being out of whack, and a little hard to get going. So we address all those areas rather than just focusing on fulfilling a need. Without helping people to progress from that stage of having need, or we call them neighbors with need, not neighbors in need. So we try to help our neighbors to move forward rather than just meeting their need.
Sure.
If we just meet their need and leave them there, then we're enabling them to stay in that need when they have so much more value than maybe the world tells them. They have worth. God has a plan for everyone's life, and a lot of people don't understand that they all have gifts and talents, not just those you see in the pulpit or teaching your children. I mean, everybody's got gifts and talents. So we do help them to discover what those are and help them to start using those. And it's so much fun to see the light bulb go off. They're like, wow, I've got something that I can share and help others.
It gives them their own dignity too.
Right. Dignity is a huge part. Dignity, worth, value, those are all really important things. And very often across our culture, that personal dignity and worth is not valued as highly as your economic
Sure.
And so we just bring people back to who God says they are.
Right. It's that whole, it doesn't matter what you can contribute right now, you're a person and you're valuable.
Recently, one of our current neighbors found that she could really be helpful to her neighbor across the street who is really struggling. So she was providing items to her neighbor, and she was praying for her and getting such joy in being able to share what she has, even if it's just a little. And just watching her brighten up when she talks about that is just so much fun.
So cool. So when you were talking about giving people dignity, value, and showing that to them, so people, when they neighbors who walk in, so a lot of them don't know their own worth and dignity. That's right. Is that right? So like where are they typically coming from in like that mental space, emotional space? Like where do you see them starting out at?
Well, like a lot of us, including our volunteers are just as important. A lot of people who don't know who God says they are have believed the world. And in believing the world, they really are believing a lot of lies. That's not to say that they are not accountable for parts of where they are in life. It's not to give excuses, but it's to take them from feeling beaten down by the world and who the world says they are, and lifting them up to who God says they are. Not to be cocky, but to just recognize their worth.
Where do you place that in the classes? Like where do you place that seeing who God says they are in the classes?
The very first class, okay. The new image class. And our teachers are so fun and so loving and committed. They make it fun and understandable and relatable, and just little by little. No matter if you've never opened a Bible or you're a Bible scholar, they get everybody on the same page and really learning who God says they are. And sometimes there will be neighbors in the class that do have a lot of Bible knowledge but just have lost that identity. Sure. And they start remembering, and then they start helping the others to see. Yes. And they even hold each other accountable. Yeah. And it's life-changing. And many neighbors will say at the end of their time in the program, when they graduate, they'll point back to New Image as their favorite class.
Oh, wow.
Because that's a foundation that helped them through each other class to see things from God's perspective.
So that's an intentional choice to have that be the foundation.
Very intentional. Yeah.
So you had mentioned in the past vouchers, and I know people have heard of vouchers, earning vouchers, getting vouchers to our stores. What does that all mean, and how does that work?
Okay. So our vouchers are earned. They're not given. They're earned by the neighbors for attendance and turning in their homework. So they can earn 2 vouchers each class, and vouchers are anything from diapers to paper products like toilet paper, paper towel, all that kind of thing. And a little side note on that, when I discovered that SNAP benefits didn't cover toilet paper, I was baffled.
Yeah, that's
you can get Doritos.
Probably essential.
Yeah, you can get Doritos, but you can't get toilet paper.
Wow.
So we try to fill the gaps. We actually call it a gap ministry that helps with the vouchers. We fill the gaps that SNAP doesn't cover. We have certificates to our stores. We have gas certificates to help pay for the gas to get to class. And oil changes, personal hygiene kits with shampoo and all that kind of stuff in them, and household cleaners. Just fill in those gaps.
Sure.
And we're always looking for new ideas.
Yeah.
If there are churches that want to help, and they have a particular ministry of products or like car repair would be great if there's somebody that would underwrite that. Sure. Or just somebody that knows how to do that.
Right.
Would be willing to do that.
Yeah.
We have one church that provides us with homemade laundry soap, and we use that a lot. That's probably the bulk of the laundry soap that we give out, and people really like it.
Yeah.
So that's the way that they're helping us.
So what are some of your current volunteer needs? I know it's a little funky right now going forward with COVID and everything, but let's say best case scenario in January, things go really well and we're able to meet in person. What are some of your needs going forward?
Well, it takes about 60 volunteers on an LYN night to run the class, run the whole program. That includes drivers for church vans. So if your church has a van and you have drivers that are willing to do that, some of our neighbors don't have their own transportation, and we don't want that to be a barrier. So that's always a big need, especially with the COVID stuff. Even in January, even if we're going to be opened up, transportation might be an issue because you can't fill a van. So we're going to need more vans. We have the classes need teachers. We have some teachers, but we are wanting to train more. And of course, people that love children. We have all the ages usually. If you just want to snuggle babies or teach teenagers. And we have the curriculum. There are people that volunteer at the tables, signing people in when they're coming in, signing in other volunteers. We love to have people just come and have dinner and sit with the neighbors and other volunteers and just have conversation. That is a huge part of the program. Is that interaction, that relationship. And so many walls break down at the dinner table.
What are some of those walls that you see between churches and, let's say you have churches and we don't come in contact with people in certain socioeconomic backgrounds. You have those churches, and then you have a lot of folks who are in need. What are some of those barriers that you see that need to be broken down between them?
We find that there are many neighbors who have been hurt in the past by churches, or just have no experience with churches, or were in a church as children that they just can't imagine going back to. So they're not interested in walking in the doors of a church. And so we're providing an avenue for church folks to come out of the walls. Come out of the church walls. We have dinners every week for the LYN, and churches provide those. They provide the food, and they serve. So that's a really good way. We're always in need of that. Because it can be a big undertaking, but you can get a couple of churches, or get your other friends from other churches to join in with that. We want to see our neighbors become more active in their communities, and we especially want to see them active in churches. And we hope that between New Image and graduation, that those relationships that they build will help them feel safer in walking into a church. Many of them do start attending church while they're in the program because someone invited them.
Like a
volunteer, or even another neighbor.
And they say, hey, I'm going to this church. It's been really good. Why don't you come with me?
Right.
Really cool.
Right. And nobody wants to walk in a church building alone. So, but we see so many changes in our volunteers as well. The growth, their spiritual growth, their relational growth. I mean, it's just as much about volunteers. And we as staff, I've been with Love Inc. for 3.5 years, and I am definitely not the same person I was in October 2016, So it's not just about neighbor changes. We all grow together. And primarily it's the relationships. And another volunteer opportunity that we have is to be a spiritual friend. And that's someone who walks alongside a neighbor or two and helps them through the process, talks with them during the week, goes to class with them, and just really forms a tight relationship. It helps with homework, prays with them, just a close relationship that is often so needed. We don't have many spiritual friends right now. We are developing a new training program for that, and we are really looking forward to having many more, so each neighbor can have a spiritual friend. Right now, it's kind of the ones that we feel would benefit the most. So we'd like to expand that.
Sure. And a good example of that I saw, at least from my limited point of view, is Marion and Lavelle.
Marion and Lavelle,
Yeah.
yes, they're a great example of what it can be.
Yeah.
And Marion didn't know what to expect, and she has been just as blessed as Lavelle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And anyone listening or watching this can go on the YouTube channel and look up the LYN graduation, the most recent one, and you can see the video of both of them, and it's really just a really cool, 10, 12 minutes out of your life that will be totally worth it. So yeah. Again, thank you, Katy, for sitting down and talking about the LYN program, and it was really insightful. I'm sure some folks were helped in just understanding it a little better, just getting a little more connection there. And thank you all to the viewers who are watching this, or listeners who are listening to this. Thank you for listening to Community Connections, and we will see you all next week.